What is up guys, today I'm going to be showing you my Riktor build and guide, but before we go any further I wanted to let you guys know that I set up a Patreon page for those of you that want to support me. I have various rewards that include weekly games, access to my Discord, feedback on your gameplay, t-shirts, and I'll release a few videos earlier on Patreon before here. I'm still looking to expand the rewards further as well, so if you want to check that out I'll leave a link in the description below. Anyways, a lot of you have been wanting this one for a while and trust me, it doesn't disappoint. What I like to do with Riktor is get some early game damage as well as support items like Circlet of Health and Mana and then begin the transition into a full-on tank. The build looks something like this. I take the Archmagus as my prime card, but you might want to take the Centurion as this provides you with a more tanky option, although I just prefer having some damage while I have the All Prime active. Throw in 2 cast tokens, a harvester key, a health potion and a mana potion. You might never use all of these in a game, but the point is that we have them if we need them. Add your Circlet of Health and Circlet of Mana. These 2 cards aren't crucial to the build, but they definitely help Riktor play that support role in the earlier stages of the game. And having said that, if you don't have these cards, you can just skip them. Next we have our first Amp Crystal with a basic mana, cast and major cast. This is for our early game damage and a bit of mana since I find Riktor is quite mana intensive. We then have our second Amp Crystal with 3 minor casts, again for our early game damage. Add in an Eldermage Amulet with a lesser health, and greater health. Wards save lives, so throw in your Lord's Ward with 3 lesser health, your Pendulum of Lords with 2 advanced Chronos and an advanced mana. Add your Staff of Adamant with a lesser health and major cast. And finally your 2 armor mitigation items. Etherweave Mesh with 2 greater barriers and a barrier, and Quantum Casing with 2 greater guards and a guard. You might notice that the last 6 items are our final build items, and everything else is for the early to mid game phase, but don't worry, I'll show you exactly how to build this bad boy. You want to start off with a health potion and double cast token. This will allow you to last hit and pick up some early game kills if you can land your hooks. You then want to get your Lord's Ward and a Circle of Health and Mana when you have enough points. After that you can add your Amp Crystal with 3 minor casts so you have that early game damage. Then you can add your second Amp Crystal, maxing this one out as well. At this point in the game I felt having the early game damage was a bit too much, so I threw some points into health. It is important that you recognize that you might have to transition earlier into armor and health rather than continue on the path of damage, which can often cost your team dearly. Remember that as a tank you need to be that front line, and with your hook you have some great initiation. I'll then get either my Etherweave Mesh or Quantum Casing depending on who I feel is the bigger threat. Once I max one of these out, I'll then max the other one out. I sell my Amp Crystal and add my Pendulum of Lords for some cooldown reduction and mana. I didn't get to 60 in this game, but all you do is sell your Circle of Health and Mana, throw in your Eldermage Amulet and Staff of Adamant in the order you feel is best, depending on if you need the extra health or damage first. You can always check out the Agora.gg link in the description for a better look at the build order. I like to play Riktor as an early game quote unquote support hero, and the reason why I say support like this is that we do build damage because I really hate hitting like a wet noodle, but we also get cards to benefit our allies. Usually I will lane with a carry like Sparrow in the red lane, but if I have to I can solo lane, and I've given you the tools to do so with your early game damage and Circle of Health. If you can land your hooks in the early game, then you can pick up some great kills as you see me do here as I hook Grim. With the double cast tokens though, you can afford to be aggressive, especially when your allies are around. I silence Grok so we can't charge away and we get yet another early game kill. Early aggression on Riktor is huge, and while I feel with this pull Riktor always has an impact on the game, it's definitely a bigger impact in the early to mid stages, so breathe in, breathe out and land those dank pulls. I want to touch on something that I actually see a lot of people do, and it's the fact that people save their ultimates. Now I'm all for this, especially later in the game when there's less of the traditional laning phase, but in the early game you should use your ultimate if you're going to secure the kill. That CP advantage is huge, and getting 3 or 4 kills early on will put you at a 1 to 2 level card advantage. Using your ultimate on Riktor allows you to pretty much guarantee the kill if you have allies around you because it locks them into place. Of course later on in the game you want to land your ultimate on as many people as possible, but in the early game it's fine to land it on one person. This allows your team to split push a lane with the enemy having to divide their numbers efficiently just to hold a tower, and now with the early black buff this is something you guys should should definitely be trying to do. Secure the early game kill, push the lane, take the tower. We siege the tower on the red lane, I rotate over, and as Grux pulls Decker, I land my ultimate on both her and Grim. This allows us to secure the kill on Decker. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Grim, and my Sparrow gets trapped in a containment fence and dies, but we made the right decision to ult there. Unfortunately, our team didn't follow up. There's not much else you could do in this situation. I could have tried to save Sparrow, but that probably would have resulted in both of us dying. Instead, I retreat and sit back under my tower to defend it against any push that may result because 2 of my allies are dead. This is the part where I got salty as fuck because I didn't have a little more health to survive the ultimate that you'll see soon, which ruined my flawless game. Anyways, I noticed Grim in the jungle, but I don't really want to 1v1 him because he has all the things that can counter a Riktor. I pull Grim towards me and I fire my ultimate, and you can see that my auto attacks are chunking at his health. He gets lucky with his displacement blast, and I could retreat here, but I'm ADC Riktor on the hunt, so I continue to go after him. Trying to dodge a few shots, I land another pull to finish him off, then Murdoch snipes me to finish me off. Looking back at the footage, I realized 2 things. 1, this Grim doesn't know he has a shield, but 2, I stupidly used my pull when Grim was already so close to me. Had I saved it and just used my ultimate first, I probably wouldn't have gotten sniped by Murdoch. So tip, don't use your hook at close range, although that was a pretty obvious one. One thing I found with Riktor is that if you aren't constantly securing kills or sitting in a lane securing last hits, you'll fall behind. I love to rotate a lot with Riktor because I like to constantly apply pressure when possible, and while this is a good thing, you have to keep up in your card point, so what I'll often do is take jungle camps. Now the red and blue jungle is more than enough for 2 junglers, so if you only have 1 jungler, just ask him if he's happy for you to take some of his jungles. If you have 2 junglers, then there really is no need for you to rotate so frequently if they're doing their job correctly. I also want to point out another dumb thing that I did. I pulled Murdoch when I could have just continued running to ult him. I knew he had a knockback and that's what allowed him to escape his death. I was tired when I was playing, but hopefully you learn from these silly but basic mistakes. I learned my lesson in my first duel with Murdoch, so I run in and ult straight away. He knocks me back, but the ultimate had already caught onto him, and I land a sexy pull to finish him off. Simple. That's what I really like about this build. We have some damage, but we also have armor and we have supporting items, and it's helping our allies out as well as allowing us to secure kills. Riktor's job is also to protect his carries. He has a hook allowing him to pull enemies off his carries, a silence to punish them, and a deadly ultimate. Kallari is a hero that often isolates your carries and takes them out, so she's a priority for me to take out. So as soon as I get her within my grasp, I pull her in and use my ultimate. With the help of my allies, we're able to take her out. This means I don't have to worry too much about peeling for my allies while we siege the tower, and this eventually allows us to secure their tier 2. Not only do we get a tier 2, but because death timers are so long now, we are able to get their inhibitor. Kallari hasn't even respawned and we've taken their inhibitor. I pull Grim and we're able to secure yet another kill. Immediately we back after securing the inhibitor. We don't want to risk dying while the enemy team respawn, as our main priority now is getting the Ore Prime. We secured the Ore Prime and handed it in and won the game. I hope you found this guide informative. Smash that thumbs up button if you did. Let me know what heroes you'd like me to cover in future builds and guides. Check out my Patreon page if you're interested in supporting me, and until next time guys, peace.